Really, in a time we didn't have time to organize.
Go ahead.
Yeah. We didn't have time to organize the course, but thanks to advisor like Frank, I prefer to group training. The advisor train the specialty and in working because we don't have time. We don't have enough men, and but we have to we combine training and training and working together. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Clark, then with training, did you have like a book that said, this is how I need to be an advisor, this is what I need to use to help advise and train the police, or was it just based on your experiences?
Basically, and we were called the Public Safety Department, an augment of AID, which is part of the U.S. State Department. No, we didn't have any kind of training manual, and there was no consistency between what one advisor might do in Province A as to what another advisor might do in Province B. It was just totally up to you to try to meet the needs of the particular police force that you were advising, and so there were no training manuals at all. And like Mr. Cuong said, the police were so busy with interdiction, which was their very main objective, was to prevent interdiction of materials and people.
Yeah.
That was the primary objective.
Yeah.
The American military, because they were allowed to be off base, there were bars everywhere, there were houses of prostitution, the military men could sleep off base and not go home, because you're dealing primarily not with a professional army, you're dealing with a lot of draftees. Most could care less, most wanted to get there and get the hell out. So you didn't have a professional army like you do today. So he had a lot of problems with the U.S. military, specifically in the area of drugs, big time.
Wow.
No, during my time, we don't have incident with the military. In 3 years I was there, no incident, right? No incident. Where everything is kind, yeah. But we have so many military bases.
Now, Mr. Cuong, what did y'all talk about on a day-to-day basis? Number 15.
Số 15 ngày qua. Số 15 không? Really, the credit the government gave me not enough, and sometimes we have to fire around, and Frank, he helped me a lot for this, to contact our military, and he like my ambassador. He's very good. When I got everything I want after I talking to him, and he did something, outside his how can say outside your competence, but you can do that. He's very good friend. That's why I respect him and I like him.
So it was also, Mr. Clark, it was getting another family, and it was going kind of above and beyond that. Getting to have that personal relationship was critical too.
Oh, it's essential.
Yeah.
We didn't sit down every day and go over something. I didn't try to micromanage the Vietnamese police because they were far smarter than me in what they were doing in the environment they were doing it. So a lot of times being an advisor could be pretty boring, except there was a lot of scenery to see and things to do. But Mr. Cuong ran a good shop.
Yeah.
For example, you might have a police advisor in Cuong Nguyen Province, which was so far from anywhere. There wasn't anything to advise. I mean, it was just an advisor would just be stuck in a rat hole. I mean, it was just a horrible place to be because there really wasn't anything to do, no place to go. You couldn't drive outside the city because there were a lot of NVA and Viet Cong in the area, so you were pretty well stuck. If you had to do policing,
Yeah.
Two Corps was the place to do it.
Okay.
Believe me.
I want to shift a little bit now to post-engagement. It's end of page 4. So how did the experience for both of you end? Mr. Clark, how did the end? How did that?
Well,
how'd
I
that
think
conclude?
before Mr. Cuong left, I was promoted to regional operation officer, where I had supervision of 13 other public safety officers. And so I was busy doing that job, and that took me more in the role of supervision, making sure those guys were doing their job than actually advising. And in my estimation, we had very poor advisors. Most of them were in Vietnam because they had some other problem. Either they were alcoholics, they had domestic problems, or they just wanted to make the money. But they weren't really and truly interested in doing what was best for the South Vietnamese government and what was in the best interest of the United States government.
Now, how long were you actually an advisor to?
To Chief Cuong?
Yes, sir.
About 11 months, I think.
11 months, okay.
Yeah. And I turned really sour on the Vietnamese War. I went from a hawk to a real dove.
Why is that?
Well, I saw what was happening. I saw we were getting nowhere. I saw all the Americans being killed. I'll give you a picture. I always pictured a Viet Cong soldier, and I use Viet Cong and not communists because all the people who fought against the South Vietnamese government were not communist. I tend to think most of them were nationalist. They just wanted their country back. And I don't think they understood the ramifications of a democracy or a communist country. They just wanted their country back once after all the domination by the French and everybody else. They wanted that country back. And I always have this idea of this little Viet Cong soldier sitting up on the hillside with a bag of rice and 10 or 12 rounds of ammunition and his rubber shoes, watching what's going on, and the ARVN soldiers driving by in a deuce and a half with 10 kids in it, going hell-bent for election somewhere. It was just a different thing. Or seeing a Vietnamese general fly into a beautiful villa and all the kids all pile out, or 5 or 6 helicopters fly into an area and they all get out and they've got everything in the world they've been shopping for and all that stuff. I just don't think they had the dedication that the nationalist people had. I don't think they had the dedication. And the government, had they let the military fight the war, we would have won that war. In 1971, we had won that war. And we got outsmarted at the negotiating table because we were tired of the war, so we capitulated, and the North Vietnamese sat back until all Americans were gone, and we took back all the support we had been giving the South Vietnamese. They didn't have a chance.
Well, I guess with that, do you think, in looking back, all those 11 months, do you think you made do you think you made a difference? Probably for the 11 months you did, but from what perspective, as far as making a difference, do you think?
I think I made a real difference in the interim, not in the outcome. That there was a real difference there, making life better for people, giving the Vietnamese government a chance. Why we didn't withdraw and leave 50,000 troops there like we did in South Korea and create a real true democracy versus just pulling the plug and running.
Yeah. Sir, does he share similar thoughts on number 1 on page 4 at the bottom? From his experience, how did it end?
Page 4.
From okay,
Page
yeah,
4.
Yeah, right.
Bottom.
Yeah, right. Okay. So it was, it ended suddenly. Even me, I didn't think about that because my new police commander for whole Vietnam, he come to visit, Nha Trang, General Phong. He visit to Nha Trang after my briefing. After my briefing, he took me apart. He said, did you think you are helpful for government in Saigon or Nha Trang? Oh, I don't know. If I answer you frankly, Nha Trang, as you know, I just make you just you know my briefing, and you know I have the situation in my hand. But Saigon, I don't know yet. And the president election about 3 months. I think I helpful for women in Nha Trang. He said, no, I think you are helpful for women at Saigon, Saigon City, Saigon capital, and prepare. I will send Captain, when you must take you to Saigon. Suddenly, and I tell him, even me, I didn't know this day I will be transferred to Saigon. But Saigon is very important about because you have the presidential palace here, the prime minister office, every U.S. embassy, every embassy at Saigon. I supposed to be in charge of the security, presidential palace, prime minister office, own embassy, and own bank, and Congress, everything. I was really afraid. I tried to escape, but the general told me, no, I think you are helpful women at Saigon. I prepare to go to Saigon. Tomorrow you will see a Captain transfer to Saigon. That's why, I tell like it very suddenly,
The last page. If you could change anything, what would that be?
Just to interject something,
Yes, sir.
We talked about building a democracy in South Vietnam, and the government, you know, I think they sold a bill of goods to the American public that we had a democracy in Vietnam. But every village chief, every district chief, every provincial chief, none of them were elected. They were all military people.
Ba không hiểu cái câu này.
So
If you could
that's not a
change
democracy.
anything, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I don't comprehend. I don't understand.
Không biết.
Không biết. Yeah, I don't understand this question.
Huh?
If you could change anything,
what would it be?
anything, what anything? What is the meaning anything? Anything what?
A very subjective word.
Yeah, anh đã không hiểu anything là gì.
Ba thấy nếu mà
What do you mean anything?
nếu ba muốn thay đổi việc gì đó thì ba thay đổi bằng cách nào?
Đổi việc gì đó phải biết việc gì mới nói bằng
Về
cách nào.
trách nhiệm, về điều hành cái gì trong công việc của ba đó, có cái gì thay đổi?
Ở đâu? Tại Nha Trang hay là ở đó?
Đâu?
Lúc mà ba với ổng làm chung với nhau á.
Cái câu này có ý thích very
Maybe it should be